Well, welcome back, Faith Community Church, to another recording of the Beyond the Sermon podcast. I'm here with Pastor John Rossetti, and it's been a couple weeks, so we appreciate you just tuning back in. And this week we've got a great topic from our sermon this past Sunday, talking about giving. And we are in the Gospel of Mark here, but we're going to jump around between that and 2 Corinthians. But
Yeah.
John, it's good to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
I've missed the last couple of weeks.
I know. It's been fun, though, just to kind of have a little break from the norm, but also it's good to get back into, just doing this and just kind of, just expounding upon like what's been on your heart as you were preparing for this past week. Obviously, giving is kind of a hot button. It can be a very touchy subject.
Yes.
It can always be taken out of context, and just wanted to hear more about your approach as you prepared to preach this past week. Like, what did the Lord really help you and lay on your heart?
Yeah. So really, in a way, it was easy because, or easier than it could have been, because this didn't have to include any kind of an exhortation to our people to give more. And so I wasn't, our people are so generous. And so to be able to come together and to commend them on their giving and to say, hey, let's just all do a heart check, making sure that though we are generous, right, our people are generous, let's make sure we are giving with the right heart and with the attitude that Jesus would have us give. And so it was really more about the how to give and our heart value in giving, rather than the procedures of giving and trying to come up with amounts or the practical end of it that way. So in a way, that allowed me to really study the passages from the heart angle and helped me even just in evaluating my own heart in giving. So
yeah, especially because I don't know about you, but I grew up in a church environment that was all about you got to tithe, you got to give your 10%, or you're a bad Christian.
Yeah, sure.
And that was just, it almost felt like I was looked down upon if I wasn't doing that. And because of that, there's like this almost like guilt-laden motivation to giving.
Yeah.
Where you were teaching yesterday was that's not the case. You shouldn't give out of guilt, because like what Paul says, it doesn't promote a cheerful attitude towards it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he says specifically we should not be giving out of compulsion. Well, if we feel this compulsion to give, it's because there's pressure on us, right? And so he's saying our giving should just be abundant and joyful and celebrating, rather than, oh, I hate to give this up, or this is really pressing me, in a negative kind of a way. And one of the things I said, and I really believe this, that if we were really giving the way the New Testament talks about giving, that ministries or missionaries wouldn't have to be asking for more, right? Because they would be overflowing. If everybody was giving the way we're called to give, with that kind of a heart, then the Lord's work would be filled with enough resources to do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. We'd be hearing from missionaries, kind of like how Paul was telling the churches, like, hey, thank you for giving so much. It's pretty powerful.
It
to
is
think about.
Very powerful.
Yeah. I want to jump into this passage in Mark. So it's Mark 12, verses 41 through 44, basically the end of the chapter.
Yep.
And this is the week of, like, Holy Week, as some people call it. This is leading up to the crucifixion of Jesus.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that this is right after the triumphal entry, maybe a day or two after that. I don't, we don't know the exact timeline, but we can speculate. But so sitting across from the temple treasury, he watched how the crowd dropped money into the treasury. I don't know about you, but I get this exact imagery in my head of this connecting to him overturning the money changers.
It's a part of the same context.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Jesus overturns the tables of the money changers because they were taking advantage of people who were coming for sincere worship, and they were exploiting them. And then he basically tells the religious leaders, you're responsible for the death of the prophets, and you'll be responsible for the death of the Son of God. And he gives people a warning, and then he sits back and just quietly observes people giving, because these whole couple of chapters here is about the corruption of the Jewish system, what it had gone to, certainly not what God intended it to be, but how the religious leaders had turned the Jewish religious system into this corrupt operation, and taking advantage of people like this widow. And as I said, he had just said that these religious leaders devour widows' houses. Well, this is how they devour their houses. They make them feel guilt and make them give beyond their means. And meanwhile, these guys are living off of their means. So it's while Jesus uses it as a teaching on giving, I think for the most part, it's in this passage to show us, like, this is how horrible things had become,
Definitely. And, Holy Spirit writes to us that many people were putting in large sums, to try to appear big.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine, with the example that you gave of having a bunch of coins hitting a metal plate, I can imagine our society like, I'm just going to get like 1,000 pennies and make it sound big.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not. Maybe it's, just like what she put in. It was just 2 tiny coins.
Yeah.
Maybe they just had bags of tiny coins, but you can kind of see how that can be inflationary, if you will.
Yeah.
In that.
Well, they weren't using any paper money or any soft money. It was all coins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can just imagine, that would be a motivation for
Right.
giving was, watch me, look
sure.
big.
Yeah.
And then the contrast here with a poor widow.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately Jesus sees her where she's at.
Yeah.
No one else probably sees her where she's at, but Jesus does.
Yeah.
He identifies her basically as a poor woman who has lost her husband.
Yeah. And lost a means of income.
Yeah.
Right.
Lost everything pretty
Yeah.
much. And here she comes to the the collection boxes,
right,
and drops in 2 tiny coins. And Jesus is like, I can see it in my head, like in a movie, like the scene just freezes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, stop. Did you see that?
Yeah. And put it in the context of discussion with the religious leaders, who are so worried about everybody tithing a tenth exactly that they're cutting little leaves off of their mint plants to make sure they're giving a tenth of their mint. And here's this woman giving 100%.
Yeah.
And it shames her kind of giving, shames what the Pharisees were all about.
Yeah. Totally. Jesus says, truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others.
Yeah.
For they gave out of their surplus, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had.
Right.
All she had to live on. And it just makes you stop, and it just makes you really reflect on maybe my own selfish desires in life. The Lord has given us a lot. We're
Yep.
in America. We're in a high functioning, society. We have a job, and we've maybe some of you are retired, so you have like this, this nest egg for retirement. And here the Lord is saying she gave everything, and that was her worship in giving. And it makes me think about, well, what am I giving?
Yeah.
And how can I compare?
Yeah. And the thing is, we tend to, and maybe it's less so now, but back when I was first saved in late 70s and 80s, the thing was to make you feel guilty for being American, being a rich American, right? And to feel bad about what you have and like, oh, I'm just not. We should rejoice in what the Lord gives us. But part of that rejoicing is celebrating by giving, right? We don't need to feel guilty that the Lord is blessing us, but we need to use it rightly. And, again, I don't think he's calling all of us to give 100% like this woman. But the point was, she understood that it was God's anyway. It wasn't hers.
Yeah.
And it was such an act of worship because it was a trust. And that's what happens every time we give. Whenever we give, we're saying, I'm trusting you, Lord. We could do a lot of things with money that we give, but we are putting it to God and saying, Lord, this is my worship. You have given to me. I am just giving back to you because this is what you want. This is the flow of kingdom resources. You give to me, I give to others, right? And that's the flow.
Absolutely.
That's supposed to happen all the time.
And I really liked how you put that in your message was, I love giving away God's money because it's not mine. It's someone else's.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if that was the exact wording.
It's fun to give away somebody else's
Yeah,
money.
it's
I don't
fun
like
to
to give away my money, right? But
that's so true. Like, the Lord has given this to me. He's given it to us. Like, why am I so stingy about it?
Right. That's when I learned I can be joyful in giving. I didn't have to give like, oh, this really hurts. It's like, oh, it's not mine. I can give and just rejoice in that and trust that God will continue to provide.
Yeah. And I think to go along with that, like, part of the reason why giving is such a stigma word, like, we flinch when we hear that word, or when it's coming up in church, like ooh.
Yeah.
I think it's because of bad teachers and bad doctrine about giving. That if I give sacrificially, I will be blessed abundantly.
Mm-hmm.
The whole prosperity gospel theology, or not really theology, but just deceiving practice. You mentioned that yesterday in your sermon, but what's coming out of this, like, you could see how the prosperity gospel could be portrayed in this. So when you're preparing a message on giving, how do you combat that in your heart?
Yeah. So the thing is, if you think about the motivation, what would the motivating, what teaching? Yes. What am I trying to say? What are they teaching should be the motivation for giving and that kind of giving? Well, it's selfish. It's I'll give because I'm going to get back 10 times more, right?
Yeah.
But that's never what the giving is supposed to be. Not in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, God promised blessing for obedience, right? So part of obedience was giving, so he promised blessing. We have that clearly, but as Dean Kirshner said, 2 weeks ago, what are we promised in the New Testament? Persecutions, hardships, right? Because that's how God's kingdom works. And Jesus, in the church, we are to be reversing the curse as much as we can. And part of that is to not be giving according to certain percentages and to the law. We are giving out of a changed heart, a heart that's been changed by the Holy Spirit. And that heart teaches us that what I have is God's and not mine. And so it frees us up to give and to let it go and to share and to bring other people in, to what we have, to our resources.
Yeah.
So it's really a change of heart. And I think that prosperity gospel teaching is appealing to the old heart that says, I must protect myself. I have to provide for me. That's not the changed heart. The changed heart says, Jesus is my provider. I go to him for everything. And, look to him to meet all of our needs. And so it's really it's wrong teaching because of that.
Yeah. And I think too, like, Jesus really, really points out at the heart, and with giving in mind. The comparison between the widow that we just studied and then also the rich young ruler as well. both are talking about giving and money and everything.
Yeah.
And,
All.
yeah. And the rich young ruler, like we see the motivation behind him was, he's like, I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
And here the widow was not asked to give anything.
Yeah.
But yet she gave everything.
So let me ask you, where were their hearts? If you compare the heart of the rich young ruler to the heart of this widow, where was their treasure?
Yeah.
Right? If Jesus says our heart is where our treasure is where our heart is, where were their hearts?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
I think Jesus knew where the rich young rulers was.
Sure.
It was within his possessions.
Yeah.
And that's what he was really getting at with him. Yeah. Was that you can't take anything out of this world. You can't worship the things that you own and worship me at the same time.
That's right.
You can try.
It's never going to go well.
But it's not what I'm asking him. That's not why he came down to this earth to die for our sins. He didn't come so that we could have nicer things.
Right.
He came so that we could have a much better relationship with him and with the Father. So I think that's definitely what that is. I just wanted to point out like the fact that Jesus really gets at our heart through these examples.
Yes.
When you think about through giving, well, that's one of the hardest things for mankind to do. Is to be a giver. It's easier for mankind to be like a server, right? To be in service, to help. But even then, like he points out about the the Good Samaritan story. Yeah. Just how the irony passes there.
It's a hard issue, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
We're willing to serve those we get something back from.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But it's just awesome to see just more in depth, like Jesus' teaching applied to my heart, and it's been wonderful with that. So later on in your message, you bring out 2 Corinthians.
Yep.
Is it chapter 8 and 9?
And again, the beauty of this passage is just that the Macedonian church, which was in the middle of severe persecution and their own deep poverty, their heart was overwhelmed with the desire to give to the Jerusalem church, which was suffering as well. And Paul says they well, in the context, he's challenging the Corinthian church because the Corinthian church had promised to give but had not given yet. And he's saying, come through with your promise. Take a look at the Macedonian church. Look what they did. Out of their severe poverty, they gave above and beyond what was expected. And you need to follow through with your plan. Yeah. Have a plan, follow through with it.
He even adds, like, I've been boasting about you.
Right. Because their plan is what motivated the Macedonians to give. Yeah. But they hadn't followed through.
It's really kind of neat to see Paul just guiding the hearts of the Corinthian church in this. So throughout this, passage, chapter 8 and 9, he talks about the, how to collect the money, but then also like the motivation for giving. And he points it all back to how God observes our giving. Yeah. Because God has entrusted us with money, and he's like, well, what are you going to do with that? Yeah. Paul writes here in verse 8 of chapter 9, and God is able to make every grace overflow to you, so that in every way, always having everything you need, you may excel in every good work. Yeah. As it is written, he distributed freely, he gave to the poor, his righteousness endures forever. It's really just a testament to the love and the grace of God that he gives to us. Yes. In abundance. Mm-hmm. It's not because he's compelled to give, which is something that you brought out. Like, you mentioned that there was a bumper sticker. God is compelled to bless you. No, he's not.
God is obligated.
He's obligated.
He's not obligated.
He's not. There's no contract.
Right.
And I don't know. It's so dumbfounding how people are just believe this lie about this.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
if I give $100, the Lord's going to give me 1,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just continue to compound that.
Well, and it's the opposite of what passages like this teach, because here Paul makes it so clear. Yeah, if you give, God's going to bless you, but he's going to bless you with a heart to serve. You know, he says, so that he says, God is able to make all grace abound to you. This is the reward for giving. God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. He doesn't say you will get $1,000 for your 100, right? He says the purpose of this is to continue your good work, and that good work in this context is giving. And he makes that even more clear when he says you will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. God will make you rich in every way so that you can be generous, not so that you can be rich.
Right.
You know? And so again, it's the flow. We want to get into the flow of God's program of giving. His program of giving is I give to you, you give to others, because he's providing to them through you. You know?
Yeah.
And
that's so true, John. Like, I don't, not directly, like someone has given us an anonymous gift, but my family and I, and your family, obviously, like when we talk about giving, we obviously benefit from that, here at the church.
Oh, because paid staff.
We're paid
Yes.
staff.
Right.
I have not been the recipient of someone maybe like covering a car payment or
right.
an electric bill or something like that. But you hear about those things,
Yes.
and I just think like, wow, that is the kind of giving that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And have, I've Heather and I have been blessed to be able to do that for others.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, when you and Denise, if I can get personal with you on this, let's talk about, money and how to evaluate when you're able to bless others.
Yeah.
Do you look at, or what do you think is wise in making a decision to say, oh, this need for this other family has risen up.
Yeah.
We have our own needs. What can we do? Like what's the process for you guys in doing that?
So what Denise and I established doing years ago, because we would give, and let me just back up on this. A lot of times this is where the whole tithe or a tenth of your income comes in, and again, when I got saved, churches were teaching, oh, you must give 10% to the church, and then missionaries above that or whatever. So that's in me. That's a part of my fabric, right? That there's
Sure.
a baseline, and I even knew, and again, this really blessed me. I was talking to a man. He was actually talking to me about giving, and he realized that, wow, he could be giving more. And what he just did was he made a plan that every year he was going to increase his giving by 1%, and just again, having a plan is good. So Denise and I made a plan. In addition to our regular giving, we put aside money every month for special needs. And sometimes that will accumulate for 6 or 8 months. But this way, when you hear there's a need, I have money set aside. It's not like I'm pulling money out of my wallet and thinking, oh no, now I got it, right? But we have money set aside specifically for special needs, whether that's, somebody's car payment or an electric bill, or a homeless person who is willing to take food rather than just handing them money, or whatever, putting somebody up for the night, whatever it is, to actually put that in our financial plan. So we're ready for that. So it's not a surprise, and it's not like, okay, what am I going to do? Take money out of my mortgage payment and pay for somebody else's apartment, to actually plan for those kinds of things, because those needs come up all the time.
Absolutely. And I think it's very wise too. We're not saying like, oh, well, go take a HELOC out so you
right,
can
right.
help
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah, sure.
I think the thing that you're talking about is having a plan,
Yeah,
and not trying to be spontaneous
yeah,
in this and willy nilly, if you will.
right.
Um,
So I encourage people to have a plan for what they give to their local church, what they give to support missionaries or other ministries, and what they give to support people in need, and to put away for those things, or have a regular plan for those three areas, because really it's what we're called to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's super, super helpful, and really tangible for people to kind of grasp.
Right. And I want to say one other thing about that. The money that we put aside every month for these special unseen needs, we have never missed it. And whenever we give, we get so much joy out of being able to be in the flow of the Lord providing for somebody else. We've not missed a cent of it. It's not like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just amazing when you actually put money towards something, you just do it. And you don't even think about it anymore.
At first, when you said you missed it or you never missed it, I was like, "Wow, he's really faithful to." to
Oh,
giving
no,
this
no,
amount.
no! I meant,
yeah.
We
I
don't
gotcha.
miss that money in our budget, or and so we're very thankful to be able to do that. And
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, what about people that may be struggling with trying to get out of debt, or how does this affect them? Like for me, I have a mortgage. I'm still technically in debt.
Yeah.
But that's the only debt that I carry. So what would that? How does that look like for maybe a younger family or couple in their giving? How would you coach or advise them?
Yeah.
In this regard, in regard to looking to bless other people.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point. The first thing is get out of debt so that you can bless other people. See, debt chokes you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Debt occupies your money, and it's God's money, not yours. And that's one reason why I think we should teach against going into debt. There's value to waiting to purchase something rather than putting it on your credit card. That's not a thing of the today's time. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, my parents would put stuff on layaway. Stores would have layaway, and for 6 months they'd come and put $20 a month on it, and then 6 months later you'd finally get the bike or whatever it was. We don't do that anymore. It's all credit card, But I would avoid that as much as possible, because when you have debt, it chokes out your giving. So if you are in debt, I would say do all you can to get out of debt. Get financial advice. In fact, we have some financial counselors here at the church who can help you in doing that, and we'll connect you with whoever you can, whoever we can to help you get out of debt, to free you up so that you can give in the way that Jesus wants you to give, and to experience that joy. I also would say that even if you're in debt and making monthly payments on a debt, I think it's important that you still practice the practice of giving, because there is a trust in that worship. And to do that on a weekly or a monthly basis is a beautiful thing, a beautiful worship, which, by the way, I want to add too, we kind of lose that a little bit in our modern culture, because we're not passing a plate and we don't have the act of giving. A lot of times for many of us now, it's just taken out of our paychecks or taken out of the bank account. So we don't even see it happen. There is something beautiful about being able to physically give. And, I knew a pastor in my past whose wife always did the giving, because she wanted the experience of worshiping that way. And I knew another pastor who told me about a very wealthy man who only gave once a year, because he just at the end of the year write his check. And his comment, and again, we all answer to the Lord for what we do. But his comment was, I feel bad for that man because he doesn't have the regular joy of giving. I never really thought about that, before. He was thinking more, I just got to give my 10% or whatever it was. I don't even know it, but that's, there's such a joy in giving, the physical act of giving, so yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is. It's a joy to hear, how others experience the joy of giving, and we're connected in that,
Right.
in blessing others and the ministries here at the church too, with that. Since we are a church that we do not pass plates. I heard a comedian recently was like, can you believe that they do this in church? They pass money in front of you and you can just... we've all
doesn't
heard
work that way.
We've all heard the make change out of an offering plate, and
Sure.
I remember one time I accused a guy for stealing a check because I saw him get the plate and then the lady handed him an envelope. He's like, hey, he put it in his suit coat. I was like, what is this guy doing? He's stealing from the church. And my 7-year-old brain went up to him and was like, hey, mister. But since we aren't a church that does that, we believe that giving is a private act of worship between the giver and the Lord. It has been I forget who, has brought this up before, but how can we as a church, talk about that and teach that for that physical act of giving? I think back, for example, for Heather and I, we talk to our kids about real things. How much this grocery bill costs,
right? Sure.
How much the mortgage costs, and how much we receive from the Lord as far as an income. But then we also talk about how much we're planning to give.
Right.
Sometimes it's really hard to see in that scenario. I grew up with plates being passed around and people giving, but it always felt like what we talked about at the very beginning, a compulsion, an obligation to giving, whereas this is a joy to give. And I don't know, do you have any words of wisdom for families that are talking about giving with their kids and how to model that, and maybe there's something they can try differently?
Yeah, I think that again, because we've tried to make things simple with just automatic withdrawal from bank account or credit card payments, or even the box in the back, right? I do think it's important that your children are brought into that, whatever it is. You're sitting down to write out your bills at the end of the month, or for the next month, to sit down with your kids and teach them that, look, the first thing I did before I'm paying these is I'm planning my giving. And this is where we're giving money. And this is why we can't do everything we want to do, but we think it's worth it, giving those things up. I also think, again, with the boxes in the back, most of us just walk in and, throw a check in there or throw the envelope in there or whatever. I would encourage people to make that a private worship, just a moment of thanking the Lord for what He's given you and thanking for the opportunity, and to do that with your children, to encourage your children to put money aside at home and bring them in, walk them up to those boxes, and together with your child, thank the Lord as your child puts 3 cents into the box, right?
Yeah, here's a simple little prayer that you can pray before giving, thank you, Lord, for the blessing that you've given to me, that I'm able to bless others.
Yes.
Maybe we can have some propaganda on the box. Just a reminder to pray before, just dumping it in.
Your worship of giving, because that's what it is.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. John, this is just it's an awesome topic to talk about openly.
Yeah.
It's always hesitant to talk about.
Yes. Because
sometimes when you're talking about giving with someone else, they may not fully grasp it. But I do appreciate your candidness, your openness, and what you have really brought to us, the church, is what the Lord has brought to your heart, not just through a week of preparation, but through a lifetime of just living it out, brother.
Yeah,
And
doing it wrong a lot of times.
Well,
it's the truth, right?
Yeah.
And the Lord's always checking our heart, and we need to check our hearts and make sure, that's why I said this was a good review for me again, to say, am I giving this way? Is my heart in this, or have I become just perfunctory about it? And yeah, just it's a heart check.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Well, brother, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a joy.
Yeah.
So,
And church, I just want to thank you. Thank you for being with us and coming back, joining us again for another recording of this. And hey, I just want to, just shout out here. We don't get a whole lot of comments on these videos. I know the YouTube algorithm and all that, they would love to see the comments explode. So leave a like. If you can, comment about something that you learned through this podcast, and we'll be happy to, comment back to you and just say thanks for doing that. But from Pastor John here and myself, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving your time and just being with us. Have a blessed day, and praise the Lord.
Amen.